Choosing Chaos, Solo Motherhood by Choice is the non-BS, unapologetic podcast for women who decided to be moms on their own timeline. No waiting around. We're deep in the messy, joyful, and sometimes downright exhausting parts of doing it all by choice. From fertility struggles and 3 a.m. feedings to those awkward, "who's my dad?" talks. This is your tribe. Real chaos, real community, and no permission needed. Welcome back to Choosing Chaos. I'm your host, Laura. Today, we are talking about motherhood, an experience that continues to evolve, and the ways it can impact mental health for women at every stage in this journey. We are welcomed by Erika, who some of you may remember from earlier in the season. Erika, you want to tell us a little bit more about the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me back, Laura. I appreciate it. I am Director of Counseling and Family Support Services at a local nonprofit in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I oversee a lot of different counseling related services, but a focus of mine has been expanding our reproductive mental health services, counseling that can be done while trying to conceive, during pregnancy, and postpartum. And from my own experience as well, the importance of having services for those going through infertility, those figuring out how to become a mother, and the various methods to do that, and kind of supporting through that entire journey. I believe there's such an importance in maternal mental health, and being able to have a counseling program with a specialty in that area has been very exciting for me.
It's important through all lenses, right? As you're going through infertility, fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and even years after, because there's a lot involved in becoming a mom and being a mom at every stage.
And every stage looks a little different and changes. So yeah, there's a lot to process.
Absolutely. At a high level, what should people understand about the mental health experience of motherhood?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's experience is different, but there is a process of becoming a mother and embracing being a mother. And that process can be easier or harder for different people in different circumstances and for different reasons. And our journeys are all unique. But I think the uniting piece is that, we go from not having a child to having a child, and that changes even down to the science level. It changes our brains. There's a lot of change that happens in becoming a mother, and a lot to talk about and a lot to be aware of. And in particular, being aware that it isn't always easy for everybody to go through that process. And there's a very high percentage of people that do experience postpartum mood disorders, and there should be a normalcy in talking about that and normalizing that experience, no matter how you become a mother, whether you're a solo mother by choice like we are, or you're not.
Right. And even, I think there's still a stigma, right, around the postpartum phase, because I know I had postpartum anxiety in the earlier days. And then I did transition as I was going back to work into a little bit more of the postpartum depression. Now, I never thought of hurting myself or my child, but it was just sadness, right? I didn't want to be working, but we don't have people to fall back on, unfortunately. And even just like revisiting a PCP appointment last week, she's like, "Are you still taking like meds for the anxiety and the depression?" And I was like, "Oh no, just for the anxiety." But because depression is a stigma, right? Like, I don't want to be labeled as somebody who has depression.
And I think the stigma is really great when you have a new baby too, because you're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be enjoying this. Like, this is the most amazing thing that just happened. I became a mother and I have this amazing human being, and I'm supposed to be happy. I'm supposed to be able to do this, which I think for solo parents even is magnified, because, hey, we chose this. So we chose this. We can't feel this anxiety or this depression. Like, we made the decision to do this. We wanted this. There's absolutely a stigma, and there's a stigma in seeking help for it because of all those reasons as well.
Have you experienced that yourself on any level of like the stigma of asking for help because of us choosing this by ourselves? Because I know for me, I have.
Yeah, I mean, that goes through my head a lot, is like, I made this decision. I should be able to figure this out. And I think that going back to my own postpartum experience, I also had postpartum anxiety, though it wasn't diagnosed that at the time. But if I look back, that is definitely what I experienced. And I didn't really, closer to going back to work, I didn't seek support, because in my head, I just kept thinking like, this has to be normal. I have to be able to figure this out. I wanted this baby so badly. I wanted this experience so badly. Like, I can do this. But the reality is, like, sometimes we can't. It's like, sometimes we need that help, whether it's through our own support network or it's professional help, whether that's therapy, medication, whatever that might look like for you.
Right. Couldn't agree more. The next few questions I'm going to ask you about are very specific to single moms by choice. What leads someone to choose single motherhood? And I think we both sort of know the answer to this, but wanted to hear from your perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I think most single parents have the same, or if not all, have the same desire to be a parent, right? So always wanted to be a parent, know they want to be a parent, do not see their life in a way that doesn't have a child in it. And then I think for a lot of solo parents, I would say there's most reach a point where, it's not happening with a partner, they're getting older, time, the clock is ticking, and they realize, this is something I can possibly do on my own. There are some others I think that I've talked to over the years that maybe just never saw themselves doing it with a partner, or may consider themselves asexual or aromantic and are not, weren't looking for that period, so they made that choice. So I think that for whatever your reasoning is, it's deciding you want to be a parent so badly, you're going to take this on yourself.
Right. And that doesn't just go for single moms by choice. There's also single dads by choice who make the same decision that we did
Much
for the
less
same
talked about,
reasons.
but equally making the same
Yes.
decisions. Yeah.
Yes, we need to get some of them on this show. What are some of the emotional highs and lows that women can go through during this decision making process of choosing to become a single mom?
I think that there's a lot of grief, right, that goes into doing it for some people. Again, not everyone. If you're going into it from a lens of I'm asexual or I'm aromantic and I want to have a kid and I'm doing this on my own and it's very empowering, that's amazing. But I think for a lot of us, there's grief in not doing it with a partner. And
Mhm.
so as much as it is empowering, there's also a level of this isn't how I saw myself having a kid. I wanted to do this with a partner. My preference would have been to have a partner, and you have to grieve that experience, right? So I think that grief is there. I think there is fear and anxiety that goes into it. Like, as much as I want to do it and I made the decision, I'm nervous about doing this. I'm afraid of certain scenarios, right? I remember playing through in my head, like the worst case scenarios, right? Like, what if I end up hospitalized? What if I die during childbirth? All these things that go through your head when you're doing this solo, that feels like it has this huge weight that maybe doesn't have quite the same weight if you're going through it with a partner. So I think it's really like this mix of, you're elated to finally be pregnant, to be on the road to becoming a mom, and you're also at moments terrified and grieving, and it's very
Yes.
mixed emotions.
And for a lot of us, I think we see in Facebook posts is the fear of doing this on our own and also the grief sometimes holds people back from making this decision because we
Right.
all, not all, most of us ideally want to have that relationship, but it sometimes doesn't happen and that still holds people back. And then we get to, closer to our 40s and we're like, hey, time's running out. So there's
Right.
that
Right.
pressure to then make this decision because we realize that maybe dating and going about it that way is not the best approach.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How can the mental health experience during pregnancy differ from person to person? And this is just general, not just single moms by choice.
I think there's a lot of factors. Like, there's so many changing hormones we're adapting to. And I think that we all experience pregnancy differently, physically and mental health wise. And those two intertwine. Someone that might have a very non symptomatic pregnancy and is physically feeling great may have a better mental state than someone that is sick all the time, right? So those two correspond. But also, some of us are more predisposed to those hormones affecting our mental health. Someone that went into pregnancy with pre-existing anxiety, someone that went into pregnancy following a significant history of infertility or loss, they're going to be more predisposed for some of those tougher emotions during pregnancy because they're already struggling with depression or anxiety as a baseline, or they had an experience that involved trauma and loss. So they're going in with different kind of emotions circling into that pregnancy. I've done a lot of work with women that are pregnant after infertility in general. And the pregnancy experience is very different when you're pregnant after infertility. You're constantly waiting for something to go wrong, for that pregnancy to fail, for the shoe to drop, right? And
Yeah.
I think that, like, we're all going in with very different backgrounds and hopes and dreams, and all of those things make us experience pregnancy differently from a mental health lens.
Which it's also so hard as a mom who is pregnant to not be able to experience pregnancy fully because we're waiting for that next thing to go wrong. If
Yeah.
you've already experienced loss or infertility, it's it's so hard because you want everybody to be happy and enjoy pregnancy, but pregnancy is not really that great to begin with.
I've
I
had
didn't have a
clients
great
say to me, like,
experience. You know
I
that.
just want to enjoy it. Like, I wish I was
Yeah.
normal and I just want to enjoy it.
Right.
I mean, a lot of us don't enjoy it for one reason or another, right? But there
Yeah.
is that feeling of loss. Again, you have the loss from infertility, and then there's the feeling of loss that I'm not even able to enjoy my pregnancy because I'm just so scared.
Hmm. Or in our case, too, the loss of doing it on our own. And so not really having somebody to share that with, not having somebody to rub our belly or to pick out names with or pick out a
Yeah.
nursery theme. So there's also that side of it. And that's also difficult too, because you hear a lot of women saying the loneliest, even partnered up women, the
Yes.
loneliest you can be is through pregnancy. But then
Yes.
for us, it's like an extra layer of loneliness.
Yeah, absolutely. And that grief that I kind of mentioned before, like that grief surfaces all through the pregnancy.
Exactly. What tends to feel heavier when you have a partner built in or when you don't?
And it's so hard to judge, right? So I hate to say one experience is heavier than the other because all of our experiences are so different. But I think some of the
Yes.
unique experiences with being a solo mom by choice, one is the decision making. You are one person to make major decisions. Like I can remember so clearly, and you I'm sure I've had similar experiences, but middle of the night with a sick baby, and you're like, do I call the doctor's office? Do I take her to the ER? Like, what do I do? Now, if you're in a partnership, you've got two of you, hopefully, that are talking through that decision. It doesn't make it any less scary, but it adds an extra layer on a solo mom by choice that's processing this huge thing. I have this brand new baby. Do X, Y, or Z? And I'm the only one making that decision, right? There is
Hmm.
an extra layer of sort of heaviness or pressure with that. I think there's also emotions that go along with not having someone to share those milestones with. I think if you've got support locally, it's really nice to say, okay, I'm having the anatomy scan. I'm bringing my mom, my sister, my best friend. But not everybody has that. So then you're
Right.
experiencing this huge milestone of a pregnancy, right? The anatomy scan, you first see the baby's like heart and lungs and kidney and all that fun stuff. But I'm doing that myself because I don't have anyone here to bring with me and I don't have a partner and I have no one to share that absolute joy of bringing this life into the world either. I think
Hmm.
there's a heaviness and sadness that can go with that at times, in that, like, I'm not sharing these amazing milestones. I think my kid is incredible and amazing. And sometimes I wish I had someone that thought she was equally as wonderful as I do. And I do have family that serves that role, but it's still not a partner. It's not someone seeing every day
Quite
and
the
all the
same.
little things that come up. And I think those are some uniqueness. I also think that once you get into parenting, so not pregnancy, but parenting, the lack of ability to have self-care, to like have that, those first 3 months are hard. And I found, at least for me, I often like um I didn't ask for help unless I needed it. Like I have to go to the doctor, so I have someone come watch my baby, or like I had to do something for work as I was getting ready to go back to work, and so I'd have someone babysit. But otherwise, it was 24/7, me and that baby for 3 months. Like there isn't a partner to say like, listen, I really need to take a shower and have a cup of tea. Like, can you please, well, can you please take over for an hour and a half? Like
Hmm.
there isn't that option, right? So that self care is very, you fit it in, you find ways to fit it in as needed, and I would encourage anyone to utilize people more than I did in that first 3 months. But that is also hard. And also, like, I counsel and work with people that have spouses that are not that supportive and they don't have that either during their pregnancy, which isn't any better. But anyone that doesn't have that other person to sort of quickly jump in as needed for self care, to step away, to take a walk, to take a shower, that's powerful.
When you counsel the women who do have a partner that's just not there for them, how do you talk them through that scenario? Because, like we said earlier, it's like we know going into this that we're probably not going to have that support, right? But they go into this with the expectation that my partner is going to be there for me and enjoy these milestones with me and be equally as excited for me in this situation. And sometimes that doesn't happen. So, how do you counsel them through that?
Yeah, a lot of what we talk about is communication, and how can they express to their partner how they are feeling and what they need from their partner, because sometimes it's a matter of that partner, for whatever reason, not realizing what is needed of them. And so a lot of what we talk about in sessions is how can they maybe try to approach their partner, whether that's on their own or even if absolutely needed through couples sessions, right? Or separate couples counselor. But how can you tell your partner I'm struggling. This is what I need. And this is what I'd like from you. And I feel sad that we're not together in this experience as I thought I would be. And how can you have those conversations? And then the other thing when I talk about is building up community. You're not getting what you want from your partner. We can't control anybody else. So where else do you find community? Like, do you have a best friend that's there? There's some great moms groups that really build up moms going through those first couple months and beyond. Do you want referrals to there? How could you build your community in a way where you're getting some support even without a partner? And the same goes for solo parents that might be struggling with that loneliness in those first 3 months and that lack of support. How can we tap into our support, whether it's through our own circle and reaching out to someone we might have thought, I don't really want to reach out to them, but maybe I can, or can we join a more professional network? Can we go to support groups? Can we get therapy? Can we go to a mom's circle? All of those things.
But those are hard, right? The
They
first
are.
step is very difficult. I'm just thinking of there's been times where I've just wanted to join a local mom group and I'm like, but I'm nervous. Like it holds me
Yeah.
back. My own anxieties hold me back from doing things sometimes.
Well, and when you're postpartum, it's also hard to leave the house. Like first 3 months, like it's until you get a groove down, like leaving the house with a baby, it's what's midwinter for some people. It's just not easy to do either.
I remember the first time taking Weston to the grocery store, it gave me the most anxiety.
Yes.
I'm like, do I wear him? Do I take his car seat in and put him in the cart? Not every place has the little car seat thing on top of the shopping cart. All the things go through your mind. Don't let anybody touch them. Don't even let
Right.
people near them.
Right, right, absolutely. And I think like doing it solo too, there's that thing like you play through all those scenarios in your head, like, well, what if she starts screaming in the middle of the
And that.
grocery store? Well, I would just leave, right? But it causes a lot of stress thinking through that might happen.
Or what if I need to nurse them at that point or feed
Yes,
them?
yes,
And then you have to plan it around that, plan it around their nap. And then it's a lot of
yeah.
planning.
Yeah. And I talk this piece through with a lot of new moms. Like, how do I prepare for leaving the house and what might happen if I leave the house, right? We talk about doing short outings first, or like, you're going to run into Target and just grab 2 items. And then you can tell yourself, like, I did it. I ran in and I got 2 items and it went fine. Or sometimes it doesn't go fine and you're changing like a very dirty diaper in a restroom and you're like, oh my gosh, this is my life now. But you got through it.
Yeah. Or your kid's crying and you're also crying while you're waiting through the
Right.
checkout line. And it's fine
Right.
because people will be there to help you.
Yeah.
And if they judge you, who cares?
Right. Right. You'll just not return to that Target, right?
Right. Or just give it some time before you do.
Yeah.
What roles do friends, family, and other people play in mom's life?
I mean, if we look at motherhood culturally, right? Motherhood's not supposed to be solo. It is not supposed to be a solo experience. And going way back to different cultures and over the lifespan, women help women raise babies. And it still should be like that. Only we're very like independent in America and we don't rely on community the way that some other countries and cultures rely on community. Makes a difference. But reality is I don't think we're supposed to go into motherhood without any supports. Whatever that support needs to look like for you, whether that is practical support in like I work a job that doesn't have traditional childcare hours. For me, that was a key when I was in my thinking stage. Like I work evenings and weekends. Okay, when daycare's not open, I need to know before I even enter this that I've got someone that is going to help me with that off hour piece. Because I didn't want to change jobs. I was very set in my job and I just wanted to make sure I had that. So there's that,
Right.
right? There's the support of like if you get sick, who's going to help you? That's a practical support. But there's also the emotional support. I feel like I got closer to like a whole lot of my friends when I entered motherhood, because when they also have entered motherhood, you have these shared experiences that all of a sudden you didn't even realize you were missing out on this new mom club, right? And so the emotional support I think is huge too. And again, it doesn't have to be, not everyone has the friends or family to share these things with, but is that tapping into a new mom's coffee community or a support group of new moms or somewhere where you can kind of tap into that new mom community? Because I personally think it's very, very valuable.
Important, even at work too. If you have like new moms or just people who
Yeah.
are expecting them, it's also good to just be a part of that little community.
And I also will say, as a solo parent, for me, connecting to other solo parents was huge. And knowing I'm not the only one going through this experience. And, we've formed, a really great friendship or two out of meeting people that are going through similar journeys. And I think that as going through parenthood in a unique experience, whether that's connecting to other solo moms, whether that's connecting to other parents, parenting donor conceived children, if you went about your becoming a parent in that manner, if you adopt, connecting with other adoptive parents, there's a community that can be found that I think is makes you feel a little less alone.
I agree with that. When you're speaking to the women who are coming to you for the advice, what are some of the most common health challenges, mental health challenges that they experience or that a woman might experience?
So I think most of the clients that I see are, if I'm looking at mental health, are like postpartum anxiety or postpartum depression. And I just saw, because it's Maternal Health Awareness Month, so I just saw this post this morning from Postpartum Support International, which is a really good organization for all things postpartum support. But they had said that 1 in 5 mothers experience a perinatal mental health diagnosis, which is like depression or anxiety during pregnancy or postpartum. It's so common, right? As much as we all
Yeah.
think like, oh my gosh, I can't admit this is happening, like 1 in 5. I mean, think of all the people you know and like count that out, right? Like it's, and the more it's talked about, the less of a stigma it might be. But even beyond that, let's say like not even just mental health. I think their statistic was up to, and I'm looking at my notes here, up to 85% of moms report and research studies experiencing baby blues. So baby blues are like not fully diagnosed depression, but just sadness, like after the
Hmm.
birth baby, when you think you're supposed to be so happy, right? So when I have people come to me, like, yes, I'm treating postpartum depression and anxiety, but I'm also treating adjustment. Baby blues is
Right.
part of adjustment. I wouldn't diagnose someone with postpartum depression because they have baby blues, but is it a part of adjustment that feels uncomfortable for us that it helps to talk to a professional about and to have someone, sort through like, is this larger depression that we need to focus on, or is this just the normal pregnant postpartum experience for me? The other thing I found really kind of settled for me was in research, intrusive thoughts are very commonly reported. It didn't put in there a statistic. But so thoughts of like, I don't want to be doing this. Like, why did I, for solo moms by choice, right? Like, what did I get myself into? Why did I do this? Really common. Doesn't actually mean you don't love your baby. Doesn't mean that like, it's just a thought. It's a product of your brain. It's a thought that comes. We always tell people just sit with it, let it go. Unless that thought leads to something that you're going to harm your baby or you're going to harm yourself, then we don't worry about that intrusive thought. It's just part of our adjustment to parenthood and our hormones and everything else that's going on. But it's scary. It's like, oh my gosh, like it's devastating to have a thought like that. Like, you
Right.
know, what if I didn't make this choice? Or, what if I didn't have my kid? What if I, because it's so hard in that moment. That thought is very disturbing, but very normal.
Can that also include, say, for me, for example, there were many times when Weston was an infant or newborn, and I'd go out on the back patio, and then I'd immediately be like, well, what if I get too close to the edge and he falls out of my hands and he somehow falls over? And like that, those intrusive thoughts, you have those weird thoughts that come to your mind all during your early stages of postpartum. Would that also be included in what your statistics find?
Yeah, it's all in there, and I think that's all that like that we a lot of times what we work on in sessions too is like the normalization. There's like this really awesome book. It's like I think it's called Good Moms Have Scary Thoughts, and it literally talks through that dialogue. I don't know if you've seen it, but it literally talks through in cartoon form the dialogue of new moms and all those crazy thoughts you have in those first, even probably like 6 to 8 months, right? Like of adjusting to parenthood. And I always recommend it to my clients because I found it helpful and I find it helpful from a professional standpoint. Like it is so normal to have all those thoughts.
You'll have to send that to me. I'll link it in
I'll
this
send it to you. Yeah.
show. I know my therapist in the postpartum stage, he was like, there's a big difference between baby blues and depression. And you could probably shed some light on this too, is baby blues is like you said, almost everybody has it. It's almost like uncontrollable crying for no reason whatsoever. You're just sitting there and all of a sudden you just start crying
Yeah.
uncontrollably. But depression is more so, am I going to hurt myself? Am I going to hurt my child? And then that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. And I think also, baby blues passes in a shorter period of time. Postpartum depression lingers. Postpartum depression is more impairing. Even if you don't have the thoughts, not everyone has those thoughts of hurting themselves or their child. But if you put the point where the postpartum depression, the feelings of sadness, of despair, they hit a point where like you don't feel like caring for your baby. You don't feel like socializing with anybody. You don't feel like going to work when you have to return to work. Like you can barely get yourself out of the bed in the morning. You can barely take a shower. You can barely provide the minimal care for your baby. So it's when it transitions from like I'm crying all the time, I'm sad, to like I can't function in my life is when we start to really worry.
Absolutely. How do you help women through the depression phase? If somebody comes to you and they're at that stage, what do you help them with?
I think there's a lot of techniques that different therapists use, right? A huge piece of my belief system as being a therapist is the rapport, is the relationship, is getting to know somebody and being able to sit with them in those moments and offer just general like support. But I think technique wise, a big one that's used is cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's channeling thoughts, changing those thoughts, helping them try to find alternate pathways in their brain to go down. For many people, medication is used even for short term. I don't prescribe, but I have several psychiatrists that work in the reproductive mental health world that we refer to that understand where women are at with breastfeeding or, you know, in their postpartum journey that like can work with those things. Sometimes that's needed very short term or longer term, right? But we do, the other techniques is there's like a really good, I can link you this too. There's a really good like postpartum depression journal, has a lot of really good journaling prompts. So sometimes I'll pick out and have them do that. And then we talk about that. And, or they do that at home for like, you know, homework, quote unquote, therapy homework, where they work on like these prompts that process some of the roots of the depression. Cause sometimes there's like organic postpartum depression that like it is, you know, it's that hormone onset. It's, you know, really nothing causing it. And sometimes that depression follows a traumatic birth. It follows a really hard journey to get pregnant. It follows having a child through donor conception and not bonding with that child. So I mean, I've worked with moms that use egg donors, right? And then all of a sudden they've got this newborn, and a lot of their depression stems back to the fact that like I thought I wouldn't have any trouble bonding, and here I'm looking at this child and I don't recognize you at all. And you see it in adoption too. We call it post adoption depression, whole nother like ball game, but very similar. Where like you know
Yeah.
you're struggle. So I think some of how you treat and work with women with postpartum also depends on what is going on that may be factoring into that depression also.
Yeah, all of those are very difficult situations too. So thankfully you're here to help them through navigating each of those circumstances. We talked about this a little earlier in the show is the stigma, right?
Yeah.
Of the mental health, the depression, the anxiety, and sometimes the judgment that goes along with that. Can you help talk the listeners through how do we maybe normalize this instead of it being a stigma and there being judgment around it? How do we just create some sort of normalcy here?
I think a lot of times the judgment is self judgment. Like it is not coming from others. Like nobody else blinks an eye when someone says they're seeking support postpartum. Like I think at this point there's been a lot or enough of it out there that no one blinks an eye. It's self judgment. It is judging ourselves as how we want to be as a mom or how we thought this experience would look, right? So realizing that everyone's experience looks differently. And honestly, if you don't find a way to take care of yourself, you're not being the best mom, right?
Right.
So, you know, kind of looking at it from that lens, like I'm going to seek the help I need so I can be there for my kid. I can be the best parent to my kid. I can enjoy being a parent, which many of us really wanted, not just in the solo parent community, but just in general with parenthood. Many people really want and work hard to become parents. And so the realization that like the stigma really you're putting on yourself almost more than is out there in the community nowadays. And I think that it's our as women in particular, we need to be able to say like, you know what, like you know, I didn't necessarily think I'd have this experience or I'd need this support, but I do, and that's okay.
And I think too, in conversations with our friends or the community,
Yes.
it's okay to have those vulnerable moments where we say, today was a shitty day and here's why.
Yes.
And yes, I need help because this happened and I'm not sure that I'm capable of doing it all. Right.
Yeah. I also think we find the more that we talk about it, the more that other people have similar experiences and the more you learn that like you're not the only one that had that experience or
Yeah.
has had those thoughts or right like
Mhm.
I think it's eye-opening when you hear that you're not the only one.
But it's getting it out, right?
Yeah.
Initially saying it, being
Yeah.
vulnerable, getting it out there. That's the hard part for women.
Because we all want to be superheroes and like do it without any help. And we all are superheroes, even if we get the help we need.
It helps us to help our children and to
Absolutely.
be better people in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I always use the
exactly.
like go back to the airplane oxygen mask theory, right? Like, you know, you're always told if they literally like look at you when you're like traveling with a young child and they're like, you know, you put it on you first if it comes down. I'm like, yeah, I know, I've been through this, right? But it's sort of the same principle that like if you can't take care of yourself and your own mental health, you can't be the mom you want to be anyway, the parent you want to be anyway.
But it's difficult in those early days. I remember many days just being like, well, I'm not getting a shower today because
Yep.
you're just having an off day, child.
Yep.
And there's no way I can put you down.
Right. Well, and there's
Yeah.
the universality of motherhood, right? Which is that, like, or you finally get in the shower because your child goes down in a bassinet for a minute, and the second the water hits you, the child's screaming, right? So you're like,
Yep.
oh, gotta get out. Like, that's motherhood for everybody, no matter who it is.
Yeah. There were several times where I'm like, I just put shampoo in my hair.
Right, right,
Let me wash it out really quickly.
right,
You
right.
might have to cry for a minute. I'm so sorry.
But I think that's a learning process of new parenthood too. It's okay if they have to cry for a few minutes while you finish a shower. It feels awful to us, but they're not you're not harming them.
I was just going to say the internal anxiety when your
Yeah.
child is crying and you can't get to them quick enough. Oh, gosh. I mean, we all feel it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
What kinds of support make the biggest difference for mothers, both emotionally and practically?
I think community. Again, I think
Mhm.
kind of circling back to something I said before, community, whatever that looks like for you. If that's your friend circle, if that is your family, some people have really strong maternal networks in their family, mom, grandma, aunts that like help them out through pregnancy and postpartum. Other people utilize friends more than family, and other people utilize professional support, whether that is a therapist, whether that is, again, a new mom circle or a support group for new moms. I think that just identifying for you who that's going to be is what's key. It's going to look different for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And for somebody who is considering entering into motherhood, what advice would you give to them to encourage what things that they might want to put in place before
Yeah.
potentially bring a child into the world?
Yeah, I think so when I work with my clients that are pregnant and wanting to start to think about this, right? I have them look up like new moms groups ahead of time. I'm like, even if you don't choose to go, just knowing that what is out there and options you have, moms that are breastfeeding, right? There's breastfeeding circles, like things that you may want, and then that way you don't have to do the mental energy postpartum to look that stuff up. Oh, here it is on a file on my computer, or it's printed out, and if I hit a point where I feel I need it, it's right here. So we talk about that. Obviously, the clients I'm working with that are pregnant are currently in therapy. So we talk about what they would want therapy to look like postpartum, how they want to utilize a therapist if they want to utilize a therapist. I would also say similar to anyone entering parenthood, like I'm obviously an advocate of therapy because I am a therapist. However, like, thinking about the fact that like if I am struggling, am I open to therapy? And if I'm not open to therapy, where's my roadblock? Right. And like, if I am open to therapy, do I know of any agency or organization nearby that might be supportive or helpful? And then I think when we talk about, solo parents by choice, right, thinking through the practicalities of like, who is going to help me if I'm sick and I have a newborn baby? Like, who's that person going to be that I call? Like, yes, we survive through it, but there are sometimes occasions where you need that extra hand, and who's that going to be, and can you talk to that person ahead of time? For some of us it's easy. Like I was very fortunate in my circle of friends and family locally, and but for not everybody has that. Some people live in an area where they don't have anybody else around. How can you make that circle before you actually like get pregnant and deliver, so that if something does happen where you absolutely need someone, you've got them there? And like for solo parents, also sometimes I talk about labor support. Some of us are okay with that being our family members or our close friends. Some of us are not. Are there doula networks we can tap into? There's also postpartum doulas. There is night nurses, right? So what is it that you need? Some people know very clearly there is no way as a solo parent I can do these overnights with no help. Like I need my sleep, right? In like, across the board, it's probably one of the hardest times for solo parents is having not a second person there when you're not getting any sleep. But there are people that you can line up to help if you feel that would help you.
Especially if you don't have a good sleeper like me. I get it.
Yeah, correct.
He was great in the beginning, and then we hit the 6 month regression, and it was all downhill from there.
Mine was and still is a bad sleeper.
Oh man, that doesn't give me hope, Erica.
No, sorry.
For listeners, how can they show up in a meaningful way for somebody else who may be an expectant mother or new mother?
I've always heard for everything, not just like parenting, but even like after someone dies or someone going through a miscarriage that like you don't ask, you just do. You just let someone know like, "Hey, I'm bringing over a meal. I'll leave it on your porch if you don't want to see me. Like, I'm sending you DoorDash gift cards. I'm going to swing by and I'm going to like for a really close friend, I'm going to swing by, Sunday and I'm going to like hold the baby for an hour or two while you like go shower and do whatever you want to do, right? Like don't give them an out. You just tell them this is what's happening. They'll come back at you if it's not workable, but right? Like just I'm here and here's what I'm doing to help, because sometimes when you're in the throes of it, you don't even know what help you need. Like
Yes.
you don't know. And so whatever someone can do is a bonus. And I think also just being that good listener, like we all can use that, right? Like whether things
Mhm.
are going well or things are going tough, we're still adjusting to motherhood, like being that good friend that like is like, "Hey, do you want to talk?" And then just listens without trying to fix, without offering suggestions, just listens, right? Like just that type of friend or
Yeah,
family
and
member.
my episode about my later half of my pregnancy and postpartum, I talk about how we do that comparison game, right? And sometimes we really just want somebody to say, "I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm here for you." And that's it. I don't
Right.
want to hear your story that compares to mine
Yes.
or one ups me, because that doesn't make me feel better. That
Right.
actually
Right.
makes me feel worse as a mom and a woman. So, so just being there to listen for somebody is so important. And we
Yeah.
don't do that enough.
No, we don't. And I think that it's in our nature to want to fix and want to connect, right?
Mhm.
And it's there's times where that's okay and there's times when, and even just saying to someone, "What do you my best friend and I do this naturally to each other, like it's our relationship, but like just saying to somebody like, "What do you need from me right now? Like do you need me to give you suggestions or do you need me to just listen?" And like so asking that, and then we'll say to each other like, "I just need you to listen. I just need to vent," or like, "Yeah, you can help me think of ideas," right? Like, but giving the person that's going through something the power to control what they need from you.
Yeah, that's important. We need to do that more. There have been many times where I'm like, I need to do that in the moment too. Instead of offering advice, I'm taking
Yeah.
my own advice here, offering any sort of advice or trying to fix it. Then I'm here for you. What do you need from me in this moment? How can I help you?
Yeah, it's hard.
It is hard. If somebody is listening and struggling, what would you want to say to them right now?
I mean, get the help that you need. Like, there's nothing to be like ashamed of. And actually, that first step is the hardest. I always tell people that when I take the first phone call for someone like wanting to come in and get counseling, I always say, like, "Thanks for calling. It's so hard to make that first call." Like, that is the hardest. Once you get a voice and you start talking and you get in a process, it's not as hard as taking that initial step. That's something that I see is like, take that support. And if you aren't ready to like make a call, like look online, like and Postpartum Support International, I can link this to you. It's a really good resource for anyone that is struggling. It's got like a ton of support group listings. Like there's a hotline you can call if you want to stay anonymous, you don't ready to reach out to a therapist. There is help out there. Most communities have really good. We're only one of a few in Pittsburgh that treat postpartum and pregnancy related, what we call perinatal mental health concerns. There's a lot in most communities because I know like you're broader than just where I live, but there's a lot of programs designed to provide that support and that help.
On the flip side, if somebody's interested in being a support person, how can they go about doing that, Erica?
That Postpartum Support International is experience led groups. It is people that have been through things that want to lead a group. So let's say we're hypothetical here because you're mainly doing this to a single mom by choice community. Someone's a single mom by choice and they want to like lead a support group for other single moms by choice as a peer, not as a professional. I think through an organization such as Postpartum Support International or other local organizations, you can offer your support in that capacity, right? As a person that's been through it that wants to. But there's also some organizations that have like buddy programs. And I don't know all of them. One of the ones I know for sure is the Jewish Fertility Foundation. It has like a buddy program where you can buddy up with someone that experienced the path to parenthood you did. So, like a solo parent by choice can offer to be a buddy for incoming solo parents by choice. Religion is not a criteria for that service. Those that went through IVF can offer to be a support for someone else going through IVF. Someone that went through surrogacy can be a buddy for someone going through surrogacy. And I think there's a couple other matching programs like that go on Instagram pages, but I'm not as familiar with that as I am with the Jewish Fertility Foundation buddy program. But there are some things out there like that where you can be that peer support to someone that's starting the process.
Thank you for that information. Two more questions for you. What's one thing you wish that more people understood about becoming a mother?
Hard. I
Mhm.
think that like we don't realize how hard it is until we're in it. I watched my sister, I watched close friends, I watched people go through becoming a mother, and I think I still didn't realize how hard it was until I was in it. And it's okay that it's hard. That's the
Yeah.
other piece, right? It's okay that it is it's a process. There's all these people that do research on like the process of becoming a mom and again, how it changes us so much. It changes our brains, it changes every aspect of us. And it is something that we have to kind of roll with because it's a process.
And on our hardest days, it's even harder, especially if you have you want to turn off, right? But you
Yeah.
can't because your child's there. So you still have to be on. And those are hard days.
And it's all the conversation on mental load, right? All the stuff
Yeah.
you don't see behind the scenes. I think I knew lack of sleep would be hard, or I knew that, making decisions solo might be hard, but I'm not sure I knew that like the mental load that is constantly in your brain in like what your child needs and what you need to do next and what's happening the next day. It's a huge increase in mental load.
I say you have about 1,000 tabs open at any point in
Yes.
the day. And that is the mental load for moms is like you're constantly trying to close out the next tab, but then another one reappears right after it.
That's actually a really good analogy. I like that a lot.
There you go. You could take that one with
I
you.
might.
The very last question, the final takeaway from this episode is what should listeners carry with them about this conversation?
I think just that talking about maternal mental health is important. Talking about it, and I think you actually said this earlier, Laura, talking about it in your own networks or in the community or to your significant other if you have one, to your family and friends. Maternal mental health is important to talk about because again, going back to the statistic, 20% of people have a diagnosis of a perinatal mental health disorder during either pregnancy or postpartum. Very large number of people. We have to talk about it more and we have to be open to thinking about it and to not having a stigma on getting the help we need. And the only way that you can work with that is to have more conversations like this to make sure it is known. And that's why like, Maternal Mental Health Month and all the organizations surrounding maternal mental health are posting, and the more we can do in that world, the better.
The more we can talk about it, the more we can normalize it, and the less fear there is behind talking about it. Thank you so much for being here. It is always a pleasure to see you. And I am
Yeah.
so glad that you were able to come back and talk to us about maternal mental health. It's
Thank
been
you for
such
having
an
me.
important topic. Of
It's
course,
a hugely important topic.
it is very much so. Thank you so much for this time, Erika.
You're welcome.
Thank you again to Erika for joining us today and helping us to close out Maternal Mental Health Awareness Month with such an important conversation. I think one of the biggest takeaways from today is that maternal mental health isn't just about the postpartum period. It's about the entire journey into motherhood, from trying to conceive to fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and everything in between. Support really matters. For so many women, especially those navigating solo motherhood by choice, there can be a pressure to hold everything together, to be grateful at every single stage, or to feel like we have to do everything alone because we made this choice. But today's conversation is such an important reminder that asking for help, seeking support, and prioritizing our mental health does not mean that we are weak. It's part of caring for ourselves and for caring for our families. We are so grateful for professionals like Erika who are helping to create spaces where women feel seen, supported, and understood throughout every stage of this journey. Thank you all for listening, for continuing these conversations with us, and for being part of this community. I will see you next time here on Choosing Chaos.